Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we've got a brand new Tag Team GX to talk about. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. Now, this is a little bit weird, right? Because, well, we've had Mega Sableye and Tyranitar, and not only is it slightly cool and slightly strange that we're getting Mega Pokemon in tag teams, but these are Mega Pokemon that never had a Mega EX back in the EX era. There were a few Mega Pokemon that were ignored, and this is now the second one of them that's getting a Tag Team GX card. I'm going to be doing a video about the ones that have been ignored, so look out for that one. It will be coming before too long. Now, our translation here does come from the lovely Antoine Boulet, who by now you know is one of the favourites of ours. And if we start off having a little bit of a look at the basics, we've got 240 HP. 240 HP is low. It is the joint lowest of all Tag Team GXs, joint with Pikachu and Zekrom, and Gengar and Mimikyu. We don't like the HP here. The HP is pretty gosh darn good. And that also then adds up with the weakness to fighting, because the non-GX Buzzwole hits exactly 120. And the new Excadrill that I did a video on a winning list the other day, I'll pop a link in the description, that I like very much indeed, hits 120. You don't really want 240 HP in a weakness to fighting, especially when one of the best decks in the format is Pikachu and Zekrom that has 240 HP in a weakness to fighting, and people will be trying to counter that deck. So that's a bad start. Retreat cost of 1 we really like. It means we can get free retreat with U-turn board, for instance, which is quite nice. And you're not hitting anything for weakness because you're a colourless Pokemon, which is not ideal. The good news is you can use any energy acceleration you like. Now, the first attack here for free colourless energy does 60 damage plus 60 more damage for each of your opponent's EX or GX Pokemon on the field. Okay, so if your opponent's got lots of EX and GX Pokemon, you do a huge amount of damage. The question is energy. Now, if this were an evolved Pokemon, I'd be going, yay, triple acceleration energy, huge damage for one energy attachment, and that would be amazing. But this is not an evolved Pokemon, it is a Tag Team GX, it is a basic Pokemon. So you're not using triple acceleration energy. Because against some decks, this is going to be absolutely amazing. You know, a lot of Blacephalon decks are going to have 2 Blacephalon out, as well as one of the new Naganadel as a bit of a draw engine, etc. So all of a sudden, they've got 3 GXs out, so you're hitting 240 damage. To be fair, if they've got 3 out, you're getting a one-hit KO on Blacephalon. That adds up pretty gosh darn quickly. Something like Pikachu and Zekrom will often also have Raichu and Alolan Raichu out, and they will often have Zeraora, and they'll be the odd non-tag team, but they'll often again have 3 or 4 out. But if they've got 3 GXs out, including tag teams, you're hitting 240 because you're hitting 60 plus 60, and you're getting a one-hit KO on that. Now, Reshiram and Charizard, if they've got 3 out, you're hitting 240. You're actually 30 damage short, so you need to find a little bit of extra damage somewhere or hope they have a 4th one out. But again, they're often going to have a bunch out. Mewtwo and Mew will often have, well, I mean, a lot of decks at the moment have Dedenne. We should probably mention that right off the bat. Dedenne is the big draw card at the moment. You play it to the bench, you discard your hand, you draw 6 cards. It sees a lot of play in an awful lot of decks. But to go back to Mewtwo and Mew, they'll often have a couple of Mewtwo and Mew. Then they may have a Latios on the bench as a bit of a backup. They may well have a Jirachi on the bench to try and get rid of their weakness. They may well have a Dedenne on the bench. And it really isn't outside the realm of possibility that Mewtwo and Mew will have 4 GXs out. And then all of a sudden you're hitting 300 damage. Because that's the thing, right? You are hitting 300 damage. 4 GXs plus a 60 bases, 5 times 60, 300, and that'll one-hit KO literally anything. A Magikarp and Wailord won't be able to take that hit, although it is unlikely that a Magikarp and Wailord will have 4 GXs out. Because it's likely to be played as a bit of a quad deck, in which case you're unlikely to have all 4, and you can just make sure you don't. Or it's going to be attacking like a Quagsire deck, in which case it will probably be 1. And this leads me to the point about this deck. It can be played around. And that's an issue. So something like Magikarp and Wailord, if you're playing against a quad Magikarp and Wailord stall deck that's just trying to heal and stop you ever getting a KO, you can get a one-hit KO if your opponent plays down 4 Magikarp and Wailord at once. But they won't. A Mewtwo and Mew deck might look at it and go, you know what? I wouldn't mind benching an extra GX here, but that puts me in one-hit KO range, so I'm not going to bother. Another one of the great quad decks we see at the moment is Gardevoir and Sylveon, that play a lot of healing cards and Super Scoop Up and all of that, so you don't get a one-hit KO. And the fact that you're a colourless Pokemon, you're not an Ultra Beast and you don't have an ability, means that Gardevoir and Sylveon doesn't have a Fairy Charm that they can use to get immunity from you, which is lovely. But you're only getting a one-hit KO if they are silly enough to play down 4 Gardevoir and Sylveon. Or maybe the odd Xerneas, which is often played as a tech. The point is they've got to put down 4 Tag Team GXs, or GXs of any description, in order for you to do 300 and get a one-hit KO. If they've got 3 down, you're getting 240 and you're not getting a one-hit KO. Although to be fair, with Xerneas, they only need to have 2 down, then you're hitting 180 and getting a one-hit KO. The point is, yes, this can be played around, but you do huge damage here. I adore the damage that you're doing, and you will get a lot of KOs, but it can be played around a little bit. Also, against non-GX decks, this is terrible, but there just aren't many of them around at the moment. Now, the other thing to point out here is that you need to get the energy. But being a colourless Pokemon, you've got any option you like. Welder is likely to be the best one. We saw at Worlds, Welder really is just your go-to energy acceleration. So Welder's probably what you're going to use. You can use Tapu Koko to get some cheeky lightning energy out. You can use Malamar to get some psychic energy, though that did not do anywhere near as well at Worlds. But honestly, if you're playing this, you're almost certainly playing it with Welder. Now, as for the GX attack here, 1 colourless energy, the defending Pokemon is asleep, might go down as the worst GX attack we've seen so far. It is absolutely terrible. I would expect this on a Stage 1 non-GX Pokemon. If there are 4 extra energies on, you do 200 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Now, this I can get in favour of. 5 energy, 200 to one of your opponent's bench. Now, think of this like Naganadel, except Naganadel only hits 170, and that's extremely relevant, because Naganadel can get a one-hit KO on a Dedenne, and Naganadel can get a one-hit KO on a Jirachi, but that's basically it. Whereas this can get stuff like Blacephalon. Now, it can't get Naganadel because that's got 210, but it can get Zeraora, which will often be on the bench, or a Xerneas if it's sitting on the bench, etc. This should be able to get a one-hit KO on benched EX and GX Pokemon. I'm not loving the energy cost, because you've got to have 2 extra energy or 1 welder in addition to your main attack here. But the fact that you should be getting a one-hit KO on a GX on the bench is phenomenal, and I adore it. I see this as a great, great option for tag switch. You essentially attack with something else, Reshiram and Charizard or whatever, and then at some point, ideally, you either go energy welder tag switch or energy double tag switch, and then get a surprise 200 damage to the bench. That's how I really, really like this. If you can get a surprise 200 damage to the bench KOing a GX, that's amazing. And we're left in a weird situation with this Pokemon, where the HP is bad, and the weakness is bad, and you're not hitting anything for weakness, you don't really have any extra tricks, and the energy's a bit awkward, but we got welder, so it's fine. But I do like the attacks. I hate the GX attack when it's just put him to sleep. That's rubbish. But I love that against GX heavy decks, you can be getting one-hit KOs for free energy, which is incredibly efficient. I mean, if you've got an opponent with 3 tag team GXs, you're hitting 240 for free energy. Compare that to Reshiram and Charizard, who hits 230 for 4 energy. That's just better. But it's not necessarily reliable, and your opponent can play around it. And then you got the GX attack, 200 to the bench is great. I'm giving this 4 Wassies, I expect this to be played, and the fact of the matter is, this is a colourless Pokemon, so you're going to be able to put it into a whole bunch of different decks. But I'd like to know what you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.